Call the names. Wake the room. Wake the room.
Know you! Rex! Pam, Ray! Naomi! Fasciana! Babbler! Monarch, Soul! Jojo! Gray eyes! Fill my eyes!
Poets assemble. No masks, no manners. Say it plain or say it broken. Monday night in the garden of enlightenment. Low light lit minds, every line got intent. Clock ticks crooked and the room turns vigilant. Quiet so loud you can hear what the tension meant. Then it slips after midnight, manners get murdered. Nice little masks get cracked by a word or a murmur. Twisted Tuesdays twist truth till it turns on its heel. Clean cut faces go strange when the dark gets real. You can feel that shift, that slick little slip when the grin stays sweet, but the eyes don't sit. Like the room grew ribs, like the walls grew ears, like the hush got hands and it's pulling you near. And the words don't rest, they press, put a heel on the chest, leave a dent in the breath. Every line like a knock from the back of the brain, like you came in one shape. You won't leave the same.
Late night poets, where the room leans in, where the sharp gets shown in the soft door dim. To the pull you can't ignore. We don't just read the night, we make it something more. Say it plain, say it broken.
Late night poets. Wednesday brace parts and apart, sink down the spine. Half halo, half hazard, both hands in the light. Then the art of seduction walks off through the smoke. Silk on the tongue with the blade in the joke. Books and bards wakes dust in the depth of the shelves. Old ghosts lean out and start naming themselves. In our coffins selling art, the ache gets a voice. Pain stands up straight and makes silence a choice. Then break on through when the dead boogies wave. When the masses sink but the pulses pray. Echoes in the dark go hunting the fear. That thing with no name starts ringing in your ear. Say it.
Don't water it down, let it bite, let it bloom, let it burn through the crowd. Bad company grins like a bruise, dressed smart in rhythm and rhyme. Puts a boot through the heart. Late night poets, where the room leans in, where the sharp gets shown in the soft door dim. Late night poets, hear the whole thing shift. From a whisper in the ribs to a line that lifts. From the darkened edge of doubt to the pull you can't ignore. We don't just read the night, we make it something more. Say it plain, say it broken.
Late night poets. Some come shattered, some come slick. Some speak honey with a blade in it. Some sound velvet, some sound wire. Some walk in low and take the room higher. Some come holy,
some come liars. That's the thing, this ain't filler for the dead space, no. This is pulse for the pen, this is blood with the echo. This is breath with the backbone, ink with the crown. Loud mics like nerves, truth laid bare in the round. This is the beautiful mess, the bruise and the bloom. The line that cuts clean and makes a little room. Late souls, wide eyes, all nerve in the dark. A room full of hearts, beating hard through the dark.
wake the room, wake the room.
Oh,
something more. Late night poets. When the clock slips past polite, we tell the truth. LMP, we love you. Stay frosty.
Hello and welcome to Echoes in the Dark. The darkness in each of us needs an opportunity to be heard, understood, and embraced. So whether it comes in the form of a whisper or a scream, we will carry forth the poetry that expresses the haunting echoes within your soul. I am Pam Ray, and with me is my co-host Intimitus Rex. Rex and I are poets on a website called All Poetry with a group of poets called Late Night Poets. Tonight is our dark poetry show, and if you find that is not your cup of tea, please check out our other shows. We have 1 to 2 shows per night on a variety of styles of topics and poetry, something to suit everybody's taste. Also, make sure when you get a chance to check out the poetry anthologies put out by Late Night Poets, because when you purchase those, you not only get amazing poetry, you help support these radio shows. And hello, Rex. How's it going?
All right, what's up?
Oh, not much. I had a indoor day today, reading poetry, getting some cleaning done, a little bit of cooking, simmered some chili on the stovetop, and life is just good. For sure, for sure. Life is good. It's still a little warm. We had rain today, so it cooled off a bit, but it's just basically like it's either seems like this past couple of weeks it's either raining or it's really hot. But I'm not going to complain too much because, as I said, life is just good. Always something to keep me busy, always something to keep me focused, and so always something to enjoy, whether it's an indoor day or an outdoor day. Um, you know, you know how that goes. And how about you? What's up with you?
Not much.
Oh, you sound like you're a little worn out.
Yeah, a little. It's been chilly down
Yeah,
here a couple of days.
yeah. Are you having some extra hot weather? And
No, 84 today.
oh, okay. That's not too bad for that area. But I totally understand being tired. It's you know, it can certainly get to you. So I had yesterday. Yesterday was it? Yeah, yesterday I had a nap. I woke up in the morning. I made blueberry pancakes, not chocolate chip, blueberry pancakes. And I got some stuff done. And then I went back to sleep, and my nap was so long that I woke up thinking I had dreamt that I had made blueberry pancakes. I sat there in bed thinking, did I dream about pancakes or did I actually make them? And then my dirty dishes confirmed that yes, I had actually made pancakes. Oh, so yep, I get that. I get that. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring Robbie onto the show and welcome him. Hello, Robbie. Glad you could join us. How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Feeling pretty charged for this time of night, which is not completely unusual for me, but yeah, I'm one of those people. It's just like, oh, so what does it take to get Robbie to sleep at 9 p.m.? Oh, I don't know. Sedative, tranquilizer, Valium.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, you just never know what's going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had the same kind of day as you, where it was a mix, like the sun and the
Or
it was
yeah,
sunny. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, you blanked out there for a minute, so I think I accidentally talked over you. But yeah, sunny for a while, then cloudy, a little bit sunny, cloudy again. But yeah, I had a very mixed day like you, like in terms of what it was like outside, but also what I did, because I did my Legos a bit, and I commented on someone's poetry, like their poetry videos, and yeah, it was a little bit all over the place, so it's fun.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, do I sound clear enough, Rex?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound clear to me
Okay.
too.
Okay, just making sure. If I don't at any point, or if I stop hearing you guys, because for some reason, especially on after midnight shows, I've been having some issues with my sound, and it helps to leave and come back. So if I leave all of a sudden, it was because I wasn't hearing people, and so. But yeah, sounds like a good day there, Robbie.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that.
I think
I like that. And
I think maybe on StreamYard here, what one of the things maybe happening is it seems that perhaps um, there's like a delay sometimes. I don't know. I know there was another show where someone was having a trouble like that, where there was like a delay, and so they couldn't hear the other person, and they would be like talking over. But yeah, I don't know if that was just their show, but yeah.
mm, well, sound issues happen, and usually they
Yeah.
can be easily fixed by people just going in and coming back out. So
Yeah, I like that. That's one thing I like, is that you just 90% of the time it seems you just do that and it's fine. Yeah. Anyways,
yes, yes, absolutely. Well, we do have a nice full board tonight. In fact, it's so full that I'm pretty sure we're going to have carryovers for the next dark show. But we'll see how things go. We have two carryovers from Goblins. Then we have rights from the small contest I ran with the quote, they built a desert and called it peace. And then we will get into poetry inspired by the art of Joseph Wright, otherwise known as Joseph Wright of Derby. And so, yeah, great lineup of dark poetry. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to hanging out with you, Rex, and Robbie, and other cool poets. And we'll go ahead and get the ball rolling. So, what do we have up first, Rex?
Escaping goblins to be caught by wolves by Aphasiana. Now, Robbie, that one's for you.
all right. Oh, that's awesome. What an awesome beginning and a Goblin's poem by Ephesiana. Perfect. Okay. Extroverts cause my hypervigilance to flare. Disingenuous pleasantries without care. In my bubble with hands reaching, gossip seeking, with questions leeching. Conventional beauty strikes me as masks, hair and makeup subterfuge tasks. Knowing their smiles to be sneers, wickedness behind veneers. Take the long way to avoid the goblin crowd, preferring alleys to dodge lit path grown loud. The outskirts mostly populated by kindred misfits, strange but kind, enjoying silence's benefits. However, predators do prowl, wolves without the howl. When us loners disappear, the cause remains unclear. End poem. Great ending on that one.
Oh, definitely. Great read there, Robbie. And Faisy was inspired by the quote by J.R.R. Tolkien, escaping goblins to be caught by wolves. And Rex, your thoughts?
Well, let's talk about the goblins of humanity. The first stanza hits on that note of uh, the masks they wear to uh, hide who they really are, and the second one walks on that note of finally finding that quiet angle to things. Yet there are still, even on the outskirts, there are still some wolves to be had, and sometimes they do get a straggler or two, so to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great observations there, Rex. And Robbie, your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry about the delay there. uh, better be careful here. Yeah. Well, I like the idea that she used the metaphor of undesirables, kind of in society in terms of wanting to meet up with them, being goblins. That works perfectly, just because of the way goblins are, and I very much can think of that as that way. I could very much think of or imagine myself looking into a crowd and saying, ugh, with a bunch of goblins. I There's definitely a few times, especially, oh my god, on the bus. This could be like that could almost be a whole poem in and of itself. Bus goblins, because you know, there's a lot of goblins on them buses, that's for sure. I like also, but though, take the long way to avoid the goblin crowd, preferring alleys to dodge, lit path grown loud. And I, that makes me think a lot. It makes me contemplate, because there's that balance in life. It's like, okay, when do you take the time to actively avoid something, and when do you not do that because you don't want to compromise yourself? Like, kind of like the idea of like, well, I'm not going to stop going to this restaurant because there was this incident or something. I remember actually saying that to somebody, where he says, well, I don't know if I want to go to this coffee shop. There was honestly only one incident in like the whole time that I was ever there, and it's been around for a while. And I said, it's really not worth it. But then there's this one pawn shop in town that is Goblin Central, and it really is not, to me, to my mind, it is really not worth the risk and going there, because like, someone got stabbed just for taking a picture of a motorcycle, quite literally. And the motorcycle was outside of the place. It was like part of the display, right? It was like part of the pawn shop. And they're like, well, why did he do it? And he probably thought he was being some vigilante hero. I was like, oh, he's gonna steal the motorcycle, right? And the thing is, in my mind, I don't like pawn shops that much anymore. So why, to me, that's like kind of the balance, is like, well, I'm not gonna feel like I'm being avoidant or anything by not going there, because it's not that much worthwhile in the first place. And if it's happened 2 times now, because that's the second time there were drugs found on the premises, then why do it, right? So that kind of made me think of that.
Absolutely. Great observations there. Um, I really like how Phasiana has taken that quote and brought it into modern times and shown it as in her poem as a representation of what it's like to deal with social anxiety, and especially when it comes to people who are more extroverted, to be around people who are constantly high energy, to be around people who are constantly asking questions and seeking gossip, really just has this negative impact on your energy. Yeah, and I like how the second stanza speaks on the idea of feeling like you fit in with the kindred, your kindred spirits are the misfits. You don't want to be around those that are rude and always pushing. Like I for me, when I read this poem, I think about how relatable it is, and how, because it talks about how overwhelming it can be to interact with people who are constantly behaving like goblins. Their goblins are constantly pushing, constantly being rude. There's just this thought on how they don't think of anyone but themselves. So while they are a mythological critter, if you think of them as a metaphor and the type of people you would point at and say they're behaving like goblins, those are people that really drain the energy from you. So I think this is a wonderful brevity by Ephesiana, and very well done. And back to you, Rex.
All right, we got ugly goblins. Boy, piece of soul away. Not just bad, wanting to inject goblin semen in all a fair maiden's orifices, have her hanging in some Irish basement, awaiting sharp dismemberment. Like being a Jew lover, Trump campaigner, build his tower higher, Hamas supporter, cousin marrying traitor. Oh, to believe in imported fairies, virgins, Ukrainian princesses with bronze passports, filthy little Irishmen, rats at port, memorial of despot victims, a culture's shame. Vandalized wings, never to flap, lift weight again, goblins by the thick Thames menacing, drawing all colors down. And poem.
Great read there, Rex. And what a great write by Peter Solway. He always takes things in a little bit different of a path for sure, and gives plenty of food for thought. And your thoughts, Robbie?
Yeah, I just got to tab over to get to look at one or two specific parts. Because there's this one or two that here we go. Yeah, one or two that I kind of want to speak on. Well, the beginning was a bit of a shock to me. That was really blunt, but I've learned that that's Peter Solway. That's just his way, right? But I'm just. It says wanting to inject. Yeah, goblin semen in all the fair maiden's orifices. Okay, like I am thinking it's kind of like the modern versus the old. Kind of like the maybe not quite the corruption, but like kind of the general gist of modernhood into kind of like older ways and just like kind of how that corrupts in that. And then when it says, "Oh, to believe in imported fairies," that he's like speaking on a lot of issues here. I guess for some reason, I think very much modern. I think he's speaking on very, very, very present issues and what's happening very much in the day, like in the last few months even, and vandalized wings, never to flap, and that's the thing. Vandalized wings to me says some sort of co-option, right? Something or someone has been co-opted, and I kind of get that feeling here that there's a lot of co-opted action going on here. So that's what I draw from this.
Great comment there, Robbie. And Rex, your thoughts?
I think Robbie went down the right path there. Yes. First answer, yeah, it's definitely a brutal note. I think that points the whole thing walks on that idea of extremism, but that first one is very in your face frontage with the idea of grooming gangs and and the things that do happen because of those grooming gangs. Uh, that note of there's a double whammy with that. You hit on that. Oh, to believe in imported fairies, virgins. There's a double whammy on that bite. A truth and again, it goes to that note of extremist. The way you walk on one side as opposed to another, because he hits on the third line. Filthy little Irishman rats at port. So that walks on the back end of how the Irish used to be treated way back in the day. They were thought of less than human because they were Irish, yet they were also the ones that would believe in the fairies because that was part of their Irish lore. Now the note of imported fairies, virgins, and walks on that note of uh, how all of a sudden the world views the importation of people as a notable thought to uh, claiming the world would be a better place, yet you can't mix oil and water and expect it to apply itself perfectly when cultures don't match and don't integrate and will never match or integrate. So, because the back end of this, the vandalized wings never flap lift weight again, that does walk that idea of when you get to the point where you overflow the natural order of things, then you find that you no longer have a country. And you hit that note. Goblins by the thick Thames menacing, drawing all colors down. The idea of once you walk a certain path, all of a sudden, um, you find that path no longer holds any thought to what it was once was as an ideal, a concept, a thought, and you find that the culture that once was there disappears. It gets overrun. I think it's a good portion of because Peter's got a lot of this walks on that note of what he saw on uh, that date down in Australia when the Jewish festival got hit by uh, the two from I forget where, but they shot up a bunch of Jewish celebrants.
Oh, yes.
And he's still pissed about that. And he has some friends who just walked over the line on that, and he doesn't understand where the hell we've gone as a world where you get this concept of you don't even bother checking on who you got coming in, and all of a sudden they're just laying waste to your society.
Yep. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Great comment there, Rex. Um, that first part had me thinking about the ugliness and brutality of the original fairy tales before they became sugar coated and watered down. And I feel like, and he translates the idea of the goblins of, yesteryear into modern times, um, into how we have become a culture of hate, a culture of shame, um, and just really strong, visceral imagery. This is a rite that says to me that history has been filled with goblins, metaphorically and literally, that they take over life, that you're not free to be yourself. There's this idea of, just vandalization of physical and spiritual vandalization. Um, and I think there's great lines throughout, but I did especially like that third stanza. Oh, to believe in imported fairies, virgins, wanting to have, that sense of hope. Ukrainian princesses with bronze passports, filthy little Irishmen, rats at port, memorials of despot victims, a culture's shame. It's I don't know. It just speaks to me on a very harsh reality that we sadly face, and that um, I feel like that we have been forewarned of. So excellent Dark Rite by Peter Solway, and very well done. All right. And that was the two carryovers from Goblins. And now we're going to go into rites that were all inspired by a quote from Tacitus, which is, "They make a desert and call it peace." And so, with that being said, what do we have next, Rex?
Lay Down Your Arms by Osama Chiba. That one's yours.
All right. Let me just post this link a couple times and then I'll be right with that. All right. And this, by the way, was a contest that was open to pre-writes. Not all the rights were pre-writes, but it was open to them. All right, so we have Lay Down Your Arms by Osama Chiba. The deformed face of humanity, the hybrid human, patched with the skins of the dead, stitched together with barbed wire, coiled like a curse. The stench of decay chokes the breath, and the victims' corpses lie motionless in the battlefields across the ages, and humanity has fallen into the abyss. Lay down your arms. We were never meant to kill ourselves with endless wars. We live haunted by dark dreams, visions of self sacrifice and blood rituals, promising immortality, echoes from the day we were cast out of Eden. The serpent spreads poison through our veins, draining our souls with ancient violence and inherited hate. Though we were shaped for peace, for love, for life, and poem. And I gave Osama the silver in this contest. And Rex, your thoughts?
Um, this does walk a more thoughtful angle, especially when it comes to the idea of Eden as the prescient notion of where once we were till we fell out of that illustrious little kingdom for lack of actually listening to the Lord, so to speak. So we end up walking a different path because of our own foibles and the fact that, you were told not to touch that, yet you did anyway. And well, that does walk on the idea of having choice, despite the fact that you were told, no, you shouldn't be doing that, yet you chose. So we end up as that desultory note to where once we levied a wonderful life in Eden and had everything at our beck and call, so to speak. Yet we chose to walk outside of that because hell, weren't satisfied with having just about everything in front of us all the time. Boy, does that make a grand note to who and what we are straight from the beginning. Anyway, yes, it all comes down to choices, how we decide to walk, what decisions we make, and how they affect us long term. Because we don't think in long term, we think short term. Although there are some cultures out there that actually do think long term, that note of 100 years rather than 5 or 10. So you, on that note, you actually think deeper. For the most part, people do not think deeply when it comes to long-term outcomes, how things will walk after you've actually initialized this, that, or the other thing, and how it plays out over time. Nobody thinks that far ahead. Well, it's too difficult to do that. Well, then you shouldn't be enacting it in the first place. Uh, so that leads under that back end. The serpent spreads poison through our veins, draining our souls with ancient violence and inherent hate, though we were shaped for peace, love, and life. Yeah, I think that that serpent spreading poison is the darker edge of ourselves. The ones who think we could always have something a little bit better. Why? Because we threw away Eden to begin with. So why would we not still have that dark essence still thriving within ourselves and do not have the capacity to control it?
Oh, absolutely. Great comment there, Rex. I especially like what you had to say, how oftentimes in these day and ages we don't think of short we don't think of long-term consequences. We just want the gratification that happens in the moment. So, very cool. And Robbie, your thoughts.
This was for lay down your arms, right?
Lay
Yeah.
down your
Yeah.
arms?
Or
No.
okay, well, I'm getting a little confused because, well, it shows black mud and then lay down your arms.
Yeah, it is lay
Oh,
down your arm.
yeah, this is a pre-write this contest was open to pre-writes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I just wanted to make sure we were on that one because lay down your arms and black mud
we're the one we're on. Okay, so every poem, this was a contest where there was actually two prompts. There was a piece of artwork by Vitaly S. Alexius, and then there was a quote. They make a desert and call it peace. And I think most people, which is by Tacitus, and I think most people tended to focus on the quote, but they kind of, to me, fit with each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, the well the I like how it brings out the deformed face in the painting as well, like right in the beginning of the poem, and focusing on that because the face of humanity really is, you know, I think to a lot of people's minds deformed. It's we're not. It's like a there's that kind of a principle of the people, humanity being in the middle, where you know we're between the God and the angels, like or no, we're like no God and the creatures of the earth. You know, we're greater than them. We're greater than the creatures of the earth, but we're certainly not, you know, in that heavenly sort of realm. And but we can be a lot better than we are, but we're not. And I think this kind of laments that and kind of brings forth an idea of how to get out of that. Lay down your arms. We were never meant to kill ourselves with endless wars. It's like whether you could take that as like whether in terms of what humanity was meant for just as humanity by itself. But if you're a religious type of person, you could take that as what you know God's plan for us was. And then it has the serpent that spreads poison, spreads poison through our veins, draining our souls with ancient violence. I kind of that's that like that Eden thing. But if you took it on like another metaphysical level, or if that's just the way you chose to kind of interpret the iconography just for your own, for yourself, it feels like all the things that we do in modern life that poison us, the ancient violence, inherited hate, and it's very lamentable. Like it's lamenting and try and like trying to bring forth, I think, uh, a hope for a solution at least. Like it's asking us to lay down your arms, you know, and so yeah, it's asking us to do that, and so I find this very poignant and very earnest in its hope, although the hope seems to it feels like it's kind of on a shoestring.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have to agree with you. This is definitely a poignant right for sure. I thought it had a strong imagery, very visceral, especially in that second stanza. It shows us the ugly reality of war. And I like how it makes that statement. Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? Aren't we suffering enough? Why do we have to bring, war and bloodshed upon ourselves? So just an absolutely amazing write by Osama and very well done. Uh, oh, sorry. Back to you, Rex.
All right, funny, but we've got Black Mud, letters by Leary, and that one's for Robbie.
All right. There we go. Black mud. Every finger leaves a print. Venom spreads where the teeth bite. Illness glows in x rays. Lost waves swell black, twice the height. War reshapes words, but wounds speak louder. Older roots learn to split the pavement. Nothing buried stays missing. Time gnaws its own tail, still counting. Watching you sink your white fang into a stray dog, into black mud at the edge of our brook. No, that doesn't mean you won. End poem.
Great read there, Robbie. And what an amazing brevity by letters by Larry. I think that tour title is just so strong. I don't know why it is, but there's something about black mud that just sets an almost deceptively gentle tone, which makes it even more horrifying. Um, but Rex, your thoughts?
Well, there's a note to history, a note to that which gets revealed, even though it stays hidden. There's an idea on that last stanza, watching you sink your white flag like a stray dog in the black mud at the edge of our book. No, that doesn't mean you won. There's kind of an idea there of trying to rewrite history by offering up that note of, well, yeah, we uh, uh, we might have hid this, but no, we didn't mean that. So that's because she hits on nothing's buried stays missing. Time north zone tail still counting. And that walks on that note of the biggest. I mean, it's one thing to cover something up, but it's the cover up that bites the hardest because it comes back with such a vapid bite because of how you covered it up to begin with. The fact that, hey, you should have let it go, let it out. It would have been a whole lot easier to deal with in the moment rather than covering it up and seeing what you did to cover it up is an even bigger crime than the actual cover up to begin with. Because every finger leaves a print. That's true. That's a note to history. Venom spreads where the teeth bite. Again, that note of poison glowing in. The idea of illness glows in X-rays. Yes, that walks to a deeper note of what's leached into the soul itself. Lost waves swell back twice the height. Again, that hits on that idea of trying to cover something up after the truth has already spilled itself out a little bit, and you find out, yeah, now you've made it twice as bad as what it was to begin with, and it's your own bloody fault.
Right? Oh, exactly. Well said there, Rex. And Robbie, your thoughts?
Well, I really liked how he conveyed, like it has every finger leaves a print. It has, and then it has the X-rays. That has the teeth bite, and that's like teeth mark. There's all these ways that he speaks of like these metaphors of leaving impressions, and I like that he has a lot of these, and they're not overlaid upon each other, I guess is the best way to say it. They all stand out and kind of give a way of how impressions are made. And X-rays makes me want to do some writing on the side because I've come across that in a couple of writes that I've seen or videos that I've seen online for per poetry and the where when I had to get the X-ray done at like so early in the morning, uh, is one isolated room for my accident uh, couple months ago. That was an experience that really stuck in my head. Um, And then when it says war reshapes words, but wounds speak louder, that's so powerful. It's like the war itself, like there's the logistics of the war, and they set up the war and they say, okay, this is what we're going to do. But it's the people, the soldiers, they're going out there and they're getting hurt, and they're the ones taking the brunt, right? And those wounds, so their wounds, or kind of the metaphysical wounds of war itself, or what really do the damage. And I love the image of older roots learn to split the pavement. It's kind of like when you hear about Mother Nature, and how it always finds a way to grow no matter where. Like you see it growing in the split of pavements, and this that kind of gives that feeling to me of how the roots of humanity uh, plunge in no matter what. And this is a very primal poem to me. This has had so many metaphors of exposure, and exposure, and how everything leaves a footprint, or how everything leaves a print in general, and how things grow where you don't expect them to grow. And it is really quite impressed with how he did that, and he did it in a way that it didn't leave the poem congested, because a lot of times when you have so many metaphors in that, it starts to make the poem sound like metaphor center, like they're just trying to throw in metaphors to make it sound more impressive. But with that, I'm just gonna I'll listen for a few more minutes, and yeah, and then I'll be going to bed. But yeah, I'll be listening for at least, I think, 20 more minutes, and yeah, I hope you have a good rest of the night and have fun.
Thank you, Robbie, and thank you so much for calling in. And you have a good night.
You too. Bye bye.
Yeah, I thought this was a strong write by Letters by Leary. Just amazing imagery and metaphors. This is a dark write on violence and death that reshaped the land and the people who live upon it. The that saying that it's the winners that write the history books, the conquerors. I thought there was strong lines throughout, but I did especially like that second stanza. War reshapes words, but wounds speak louder. That is a powerful line. Excellent write by Letters by Larry, who got the bronze in this contest, and very well done. All right, Rex, back to you.
That distant oasis, gloss form, Emily Dickinson by Way Down Upon Joy. And well, she's got the inspiration up top. A Doubt if It Be Us by Emily Dickinson. A doubt if it be us assists the staggering mind in an extremer anguish until it footing find. An unreality is lent, a merciful mirage that makes the living possible while it suspends the life. And the gloss end, the distant oasis. A doubt if it be us assists the staggering mind, streamlined by insight's eye on healthy heart. Your wealth becomes the oversight of change. What's gained, now rearranged your head to art, regarding news as nothingness long range, so doubt if it be us assists the staggering mind. In an extremer anguish until it footing finds, we mind the mightiness of other ways. The way the sun and stars will still shine their light, while nature shares regardless of delays. It's then we realize what brings delight, in an extremer anguish until it footing find. An unreality is lent a merciful mirage, and deserts share the wisdom of survive. The cacti rearrange how they must stand, and rattlesnakes they too must stay alive. So, as we gaze that distant promised land, an unreality is lent a merciful mirage that makes the living possible while it suspends the lives of those that weave those webs of disconcert. and we will fly above the wisdom's wings that gift us without choice to controvert the voice of psalms well heard that bluebirds sing, that makes the living possible while it suspends the lives. And poem. Unmute, Pam.
I just wasn't sure. Sorry. I wasn't sure. Honestly, I was off mute. I just wasn't sure if I had just lost sound or if you were at the end of the poem. Um, sorry. But great read there, Rex. This is a nicely written gloss form poem by Way Down Upon Joy. Just really thoughtful lines. I like the nice, gentle use of alliteration. It's an excellent write that speaks to me on how hope can be found within the heart, even when life feels like a wasteland. And there's definitely strong lines throughout. But I did especially like the third stanza with an unreality is lent a merciful mirage, and deserts share the wisdom of survive. The cacti rearrange how they must stand, and rattlesnakes they too must stay alive. So as we gaze that distant promised land, and unreality is lent a merciful mirage. I like how that speaks on, to me anyways, well, it's kind of twofold. Like it speaks on the different ways that life survives in the desert, but it also speaks on how sometimes in a journey of healing from past pain, our mind protects itself by not facing reality, not being prepared to face reality. So excellent write by Way Down Upon Joy, and very well done. And your thoughts, Rex?
Um, well, the idea of the distant oasis is the mind itself, the conveyance of walking a different path mentally, because she hits in that second stanza with it. In an extreme anguish until it footing find, we mind the mightiness of other ways, the way the sun, stars, or the way the sun, stars still shine their light, while nature shares regardless of delays. It's then we realize what brings delight in an extreme anguish until it footing find. So the idea of finding your feet is a truer path of knowledge. That idea with the merciful mirage is how things work in the desert when you got those extremities of heat and cold, because you can turn a 120-degree midday walk into a 45-degree evening that's brutally cold, and the swing is harsh, and you get the thought of how cacti and other scrubs still grow out in the desert, how you get the idea of rattlesnakes and other things that do prairie dogs and other things survive because how they erect their lives around their environment instead of letting the environment dominate their lives. So it all walks in that idea of working with what you got given to you in the moment where you are, and living within your means instead of trying to work outside of it and reshape something that will reshape you in a heartbeat if you do not pay attention to what is going on. Back to you. Hello, hello, Pam. And oh yes, aha, I am the only one here. Yes, Monty, she is AWOL. I had to find out the hard way. Come back off one board into the next one to find out what's going on. I guess she couldn't hear herself or decided, hey, need a little bit of time for the moment. Well, anyway,
All right. Great comment there, Rex. Well, wait. I already commented on. Did I comment on this one?
I don't know anymore. You've been gone too long.
No, no. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Um, because you read it. I am going to need you to drop and come back, please, Rex. Yeah. Wrath in the Dark by Scraps and Scribbles. So I will get that posted in a couple other spots, and then I'll go back to read it. All right. So, Wrath in the Dark by Scraps and Scribbles. The lightning white against the storm and sullen mood of night disturbs the darkness as the form of dreams is split by light. The wind's a grieving mother out for vengeance on a killer. Her speaking crushed within her shout, she won't stop 'cause you will her. And like a shard of night come loose, the raven takes to wing to hurl upon the storm abuse with voice that cannot sing. If rain were bullets, I'd be dead on such a night as this, and lay with her in earthly bed and share in earthly bliss. I meant to deck her grave with posy, as oftentime before, and weep when rain would not expose me, but my footing was unsure. The rum's a lightning cuts through thought, I struck remembrance true, but rum and darkness play for sport between your path and you. I know the path to where she lays, I never strayed before, but rum and stormings change the road and make the ways unsure. I found myself in such a place as surely in the day was such a dismal, dreadful space that that light would never stray. The darkness there was of the air, as if the two were one, and every single breath despair of ever feeling sun. Between the thunder, neath the rain, another sound, I swear, of breathing, grieving, hungry pain. Was this the devil's lair? The sound had gone, although the storm continued in its fit. The lightning raged, the wind came on, I heard none of it. The only sounds were something I could liken to a beast, at once a hunting subtle sly, at once a bloody feast. The sight of things was over everywhere, my eyes had power still, but not a noise was anywhere, save through this devil's will. It seemed a mile or more away, its breath was on my face. I heard a growl, a cry, a bray, but where I could not place. A sense of evil worse than death was writ across the dark. Its teeth were just behind its breath, its bite behind its bark. My fists were useless as my knife. I couldn't see the foe, and as I lost the hope of life, there came a fearsome glow. A lightning strike like wrath of flame made fury out of light. I saw my foe and spake his name. He shriveled in his fright. I ran at him, I bared my teeth, I plagued him on in his turn, and taught him, though our lives be brief, our souls like lightning burn. And that's the answer. new eye there to why there's good and evil, so decent folks can lay it bare and terrify the devil. And poem. And let's go ahead and bring Rex back on so he can share his thoughts on the poem. And welcome.
Right? Scraps had fun with this. uh, it's Poe-like in its thought and its a descending note of uh, let's see that it kind of opens up with a uh, almost wistful in that first stanza, and you get the note of pain that strikes in the second, and then it starts its descending glory into reality, uh, almost on a canter in the darkness itself. And I like the general bite that she Scraps offers up. If rain were bullets, I'd be dead on such a night as this, and lay with her in earthly bed and share an earthly bliss. I meant to deck her grave with posy, as oftentime before, and weep when rain would not expose me, but my footing was unsure. The rum's a lightning cuts through thought, I struck remembrance true, but rum and darkness play for sport between your path and you. I know the path to where she lays, I never strayed before, but rum and storming change the road and make the ways unsure. That note of rum kind of hits at the idea of taking drink to steady one's uh, rigidity in courage, and it does walk a bit further down because fear does offer its a note. The only sounds were something I could liken to a beast, at once a hunting subtle sly and once a bloody feast. The sight of things was everywhere, my eyes had power still, but not a noise was anywhere, save through this devil's will. And here we go. My fists were useless as my knife, I could not see the foe, and as I lost the hope of life, there came a fearsome glow. A lightning strike like wrath of flame made a fury out of light. I saw my foe and spake his name. He shriveled in his fright. And the idea of it isn't. It's also facing one's own fears as well as demons. That idea of if you lay your foot down to the devil without actually standing up to the devil, then you will become as a slave to him. So this note of uh, the dark undertaking, the idea of visiting and laying uh, posies, flowers at a grave, which turns into this fight, this flight of fancy and darkness, of an evening of dread, con- uh, complete with thunder, lightning, and heavy rain, which offers up another angle, almost like because when you get down to part of this, that note of a sense of evil worse than death was writ across the dark. Its teeth were just behind its breath, its bite behind its bark. Almost a note to the werewolf lurking in the background. Um, but this also walks on the note of taking a just because darkness walks its thread outside and it might hold its a notable foot within your mind, it doesn't mean you have to bend your knee to fear and or the devil as a whole form. It is best to stand your ground, stand tall and proud, and take the fight where it need be take.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Great comment there, Rex. Yeah, I thought this had a wonderful rhyme and flow. Um, it was definitely a great poesque style, right? I like how it speaks on trying to drown uh, your despair with the rum and the idea of loss and the idea of facing our own fears, that inner battle between good and evil. And I thought there were strong lines throughout, but I did especially like those last few stanzas. So nicely written by Scraps and Scribbles, and very well done. And what do we got next, Rex?
A Ravenous Clown by Randall S. I was when time nursed infant galaxies, and space, still measurable, not yet reaching infinity, swirled in a black swaddling blanket of dark matter and chaos. I was born to consume nightmares and horrified emotions, then sleep for many years, only to come awake and feed for a few weeks on the offspring of every generation that has ever lived. I seduce all that gaze, transfixed by my deadlights, personifying their terror in many forms. I dress to lip their fear, watching it beat up on such soft, supple, aromatic skin. I delight when their shock peaks, pricking my taste, while I break down the walls of untainted hearts slowly, enjoying every last second until their pounding little chest fails from fright. I hide in the recesses of your child's impressionable mind, so tangible, malleable, and sticky. They tell you about me, wondrous imaginations, you say, and pay them no heed until they're found missing. Then it's much too late. I have no shape, only a malevolent presence that waits, ravenous. I am it, goblin of the soul, eater of worlds. And poem.
Great read there, Rex. That one was perfect for your voice for sure. This is such wonderful, dark, and horrifying inspiration taken from Stephen King's It. I like the first person narrative, an excellent write on the ever shifting form of evil that represents our greatest fears throughout history. Um, and I thought there was great lines throughout, but I especially like I seduce all that gaze transfixed by my dead lights, personifying their terrors in many forms. I dress to lip their fear, watching it beat up on such soft, supple, aromatic skin. And then those end lines too. I have no shape, only a malevolent presence that waits ravenous. I am it, goblin of the soul, eater of worlds. Wonderful lines and very well done. And your thoughts, Rex?
That opening stanza kind of walks a nice note of uh, the purity of of something that is that ancient, born within the note of time immemorium, along with the universe as a whole, and with it has grown and expanded within that universe. So that was cool. What else? I seduce all that gaze, transfixed by my dead lights, personifying their terror in many forms. I dress to live their fear, watching it beat up on such soft, supple, aromatic skin. Personifying their terror in many forms. I like that note of however, and whatever you see within my eyes is that which haunts and scares the tar out of you. Nice touch. Um, and this one here, I hide in the recesses of your child's impressionable mind, so tangible, malleable, and sticky. They tell you about me, wondrous imaginations, you say, and pay them no heed until they're found missing. Then it's much too late. The truth in the telling, yet nobody's really listening. Why? Because children have such wonderful imaginations. How could they tell us the truth when they don't know not so such horrors? But then again, what horrors bleed through?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said there, Rex. Um, and yes, it was. Okay. Um, wait, did you ever read Peter Sawyer's Bright Creepy
No, that's
Town?
why I got it now. So, Creepy Town by Peter
Okay.
Solway. Composed not of bricks,
All right.
set,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Creepy Town by Peter Solway. Composed not of bricks, sensible mortar between windows of lace curtains, but rot and corruption within, built of bones, intestines, methane instead of oxygen. Worse than deserted Chernobyl, though sometimes butterflies in spring, deers rutting in the tickling grass. Creepy town, hang of extrovert scorpions, wheeling and dealing with meth heads on Maine. Bones, intestines, sticks and stones, pants half down. End poem.
Great read there, Rex. I thought this was such a strong write by Peter. I actually gave him the gold in this contest. He took time to write something new. I felt like he took the prompt and or prompts the image and the quote and really brought it into the horrifying experience of more modern times. The title Creepy Town makes me think of, well, he mentions Chernobyl, so, but it makes me think of ghost towns, which really, if you think about it, Chernobyl is basically very much like a ghost town. This to me had powerful lines, amazing imagery and metaphors, and it's an excellent dark write that speaks to me on a town, and the town representing a society that is built upon death and corruption. Um, and so I really appreciated this write. I like how to me, because when you look at the artwork and you look at especially the quote, you think of, you look at the corruption of ancient Rome, and I feel like here he's looking at more of corruption of the 20th century, looking at the idea of how we're killing ourselves off, with not only the corruption but the realities that we refuse to face. So excellent dark write by Peter Solway, and very well done. And Rex, you did a great read of that. Your thoughts?
Oh, hell. Part of this could you could look at Hollywood for some of this stuff. Built on the bones of those that came before, the corruption and rot that's walked within it. Oh, look at all the murders that have gone on in that place of famous people that all of a sudden, yeah, we can't solve it. And then there's the wannabes that walk within that arena and got smacked as well for it. Speak of that the creepy town hang of extrovert scorpions, wheeling and dealing with meth heads on Maine. Oof. Pants half down, yeah, that does kind of speak to the notion. There's a lot of cities these days where you've got a lot of pants half down and shit in the streets. Why? Because it's easier for them to just go where they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said there, Rex. And all right, so now we're going to go into poetry inspired by the artwork of Joseph Wright of Derby, who obviously he was born in Derby, England. Well, he was born September 3rd, 1734 in Derby, England, and he also died in Derby, England at the age of 62. Um, he also went by the name of Wright of Derby, and he just, I don't know, like what I found interesting about his artwork is it wasn't like in your face dark, like it was, some of it was more subtle in its darkness, and especially the landscapes. I don't know if subtle's the right word, but it's not like there was monsters. There's just dark landscapes and people. And there's a lot of balance between shadows and light. So I was really interested to see what people got out of the artwork and what kind of darkness they were able to draw from it. Um, and he is notably known for his use of tenebrism, an exaggerated form of the better known Chicorosero effect, which emphasizes the contrast of light and dark. And all right, with that being said, Rex, what do we got first or next?
Principles of Light by Eric Svensson. You got SoundCloud.
Yes, we do. Let me just grab that and put the link up in a couple different spots, and then I will go grab that SoundCloud. All right.
Principles of Light. A grotesque keyhole cut out of darkness, rough hewn edges. Socrates' darkened mind cave comes to mind. Move forward, do or die. Fear not flighty shadows. Move towards the light. A grotesque keyhole cut out of darkness by the Industrial Revolution. Revulsion's propulsion pushed on against all odds. Find the bridge, construct a pathway, move forward, do or die. Fear not flighty shadows of naysayers, move towards light insight. Treble tenebrism, compact, confound, chiruzuro. Paint a bridge that spans light and darkness. Arrest the first luminous birth pangs of the Industrial Revolution. As unstoppable as the discovery of the wheel, fear not light's infliction. Antagonistic angst versus altruistic assagement. With the romantics, I still balk and bay, cry wolf under lunar full moons. Grotesque Gotham keyholes cut out of pastoral landscapes. Darth Vader's steel mills belching belligerent black. Treble, triple, tenebrism. Compact, confound, cement, chiaroscuro. From the industrial age to modern-day space age, as unstoppable as the discovery of the wheel, fear not light's infliction. No pretty pastoral scenes as yet probable on Mars. Risque candlelight became torch song trilogies. Fluorescent light tubes mimic full moon lunar light glow. Nano neon lit seconds splice stem cells in sterile laboratories. Grotesque CERN, Ouroboros serpent consumes its own tail beneath pretty pastoral scenes in Switzerland and France. End poem.
Great read and write, Eric. Thank you for the SoundCloud. It is very much appreciated. And just a reminder, everyone, if you're unable to call in, the next best thing is to make a recording of your poem because then we get to hear your poetry in your voice or how you would like it to be heard. Thoughts.
Um, I like the play on the angle from the picture itself. That note, uh, the first stanza of Socrates' darkened mind cave comes to mind. Move forward, do or die. Fear not, flighty shadows. Move towards the light. The idea of stepping outside of the darkness of what the mind can conjure into the next stage of living, because then he rolls into the uh, the grotesque keyhole cut out of darkness by the Industrial Revolution, and the idea of walking in that new realm where things are progressing. And it hits again: fear not, flighty shadows or naysayers. Move towards light's insight. The idea of now darkness does not hold that sway anymore, and light can be had any time of the day or night. So there's no need to hold that note of fear. Um, he walks into the note with the romantics. I still balk and bay, cry wolf under lunar moons. Grotesque Gothic keyholes cut out of pastoral landscapes. Darth Vader steel mills belching beleaguerments black. So there is a note to what comes with that note of moving forward, the ugliness of the back end of it. And then you got the next one walks into a walking from the industrial age into space age, not yet seeing those pretty pastoral scenes on Mars. Probably won't for quite a few years or a few hundred years before we get to that maybe terraforming. And at the back end, risque candlelight became torch song trilogies. Fluorescent light tubes mimic full moon, lunar light glow. Nano neon lit seconds, splice stem cells in sterile laboratories. Grotesque CERN Ouroboros serpent consumes its own tail beneath pretty pastoral scenes in Switzerland and France. I think that last one was notable because um, the advent of CERN and the idea of what they're doing with it, as far as the Hadron Collider, and the fact that it is situated in a very pretty and pristine pastoral scenery in Switzerland, offers up that note of because there is the thought of CERN going too far as to open up something within the a tear within space time that might eventually prove detrimental because they do are using quite a bit of power and probing maybe too hard into finding the God particle amongst other things. The thought of dark matter, which still to this day they know dark matter exists, but they don't know what it can and will do. And depending on how it is played with, dissected, who knows? There's a lot to worry about, especially considering a good portion of what CERN offers up to. There seems to be a little bit of devilry that works within their main theme as part of their background and what is on display within their environs.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Great comment there, Rex. Um, I like the imagery of a grotesque keyhole cut out of darkness by the Industrial Revolution. I think that's great inspiration taken from the shape of the cave's mouth. And I like how he writes about a time period in history where we found another a path that was supposed to be a path of enlightenment in some ways, but also came to be a path of darkness. Great imagery and metaphors, great use of alliteration. Um, I like how this speaks on the idea of the ugliness that came to be within society because we were constantly pushing for everything to be made in factories, and how, like, the idea that these factories had no work ethics, how the smoke coming out of them, smog coming out of them was constantly polluting the air. Um, I really like the line, "No pretty pastoral scenes as yet probable on Mars." We're looking at we're just looking at a darkness that is so horrifying because it is a darkness, a brokenness that we have created. Excellent write by Eric Sunton. And very well done. Rex, you passed your yawns on to me.
Don't look at me.
All right, what do we have next, Rex?
The Blade of Rage by Randa Yoseri.
All right. Let me just get that. All right. The Blade of Rage by Randa Yazri. The gloom keeps a tight leash around the night's neck, wrapping it in a burial shroud. The moon's softened light, hid in fear, yield into the cloud's grip in bruised defeat. The sea wore thunder under its rippled skin, a clash among furious waves, a war within. The eye of the lighthouse breathes fire, screaming until the darkness kneels in surrender. Rage broke its chain, crawling through my body on fractured feet and stained my rusted bones. The unbridled fury swallowed the vulnerable silence, shattering the doors of relief. No mercy left to grieve. Now I am a tsunami, roaring towards the coastline of peace. Revenge is the echo of my final cry. End poem. Oh, this is an amazing dark write by Randa. And your thoughts, Rex?
Um, I like the imagery drawn out of the picture and how she rolls it, but and there's two little small stanzas working here. Rage broke its chain, crawling through my body on fractured feet and stained my rusted bones. Now I am a tsunami rolling towards the coastline of peace. Revenge is the echo of my final cry. Great finish there. But I know it might be a little petty, but the idea of the in one, two, three, four, five notes kind of takes a little bit out of the bite this could have if it was worded just slightly different. Instead of using the does, kind of making a note of combination, which walks a slightly improved note of thought. Then you, because it comes across as being explained rather than shown. The gloom, the moons, the sea, the eye, the unbridled fury. It comes across as uh, a little bit too much instead of, I don't know, maybe it's being a bit. Uh, it doesn't take away from the overall, but it could be a whole lot work a whole lot more wonder within the mind without that starting point in so many of the lines. But I do like it.
has captivating lines. I really like what she got on fire and saw the can't be left to grieve, and instead they want people to pay for their suffering. um, and really amazing imagery and metaphors throughout. But I especially like the eye of the lighthouse breathes fire, screaming until the darkness kneels in surrender. And then where it says, now I am a tsunami roaring towards the coastline of peace. Revenge is the echo of my final cry. Wonderful lines by Randa Yazri, and very well done. All right. And what do we got next, Rex?
The Meaning of Days by Monty J.
All
25.
right. And I believe we have a SoundCloud for this. Oh. All right. Let me go grab that.
Oh crap, I think I've done it. I've discovered the relativity formula for the meaning of day. Hi, my name is Albert. They call me One Rock. My life's work has been on the relativity of days. I have been trying to understand how days work, particularly the correlative aspect of today, yesterday, and tomorrow, with a focus on the influence from global time molecular structures. Why is this so, Professor Albert? How does it work, you may ask? I'm glad you asked. So now I shall demystify their interrelational pertinence. At this juncture, I must thank Professors FME and Robis P for their input. Okay, are you paying attention? Because this formula gets tricky. For each today, there is a yesterday and a tomorrow, unless it is yesterday, in which case we are in tomorrow. If we use the following formula, it is greatly simplified where y equals yesterday and t equals today and 2 equals tomorrow. That being hemispherically correct, it is indisputably logical that 2 minus t equals y. However, this can only hold true if the constant of t is carried forward and backward for y, and 2 as appropriate. Wake up in California. This is an important concept for you. I digress, whereas the subjugation of 2 is held within the confines of y, where y cannot hold true under the premise that t is not 2, particularly if 2 is brought forward to t, thereby languishing y. At this juncture, the inclusion of the day before TDB can only exist where 2 and y have been subjugated. What does it all mean, you ask? I don't know. I only teach this crap. Light reading for tomorrow. No, we won't go through that again. Will be chapters 1 to 21 of my book, Einstein's Lot of Correlative Relational Aspect Premises.
Wonderful choice of audio there, Monty. Thank you for the SoundCloud. It is very much appreciated. Well, this one was very enjoyable, but oh my goodness gracious, I feel like my head is spinning in circles. And your thoughts, Rex?
I had way too much fun with this, especially when it come on the back end. The
You
idea of
did.
the run on the thought of the idea of breaking everything down into today, yesterday, and tomorrow, and then running through that angle with the premise of YT and 2, and then rolling through the whole thing in a parody of uh, e- equanimity when it comes to yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and the fact of how it works, only to walk into the back end of this and roll out a note of humor. What does it mean? All it mean? You ask? I don't know. I only teach this crap. Light reading for tomorrow. No, we won't go through that again. Will be chapters 1 through 21 of my book, Einstein's Law of Correlative Relational Aspect Premises. Crap. I like it.
Yeah, yeah, great comment there, Rex. Yeah, I enjoyed the humor in this, and I'm glad he has one of the labels being confusion, because that just seems to work so well. Um, I'm is what are what's up with the bold letters?
They are representative of the concept, the idea, the theory, the thought.
Oh, okay.
In order to explain something like E equals mc squared, you got the idea. Energy equals mass times squared. So you need that representation of what the thought is. So Y is the obvious of yesterday, T the obvious of
I got
today,
the end
and
one. Oh,
TO.
the end one is funny. Correlative relation aspect premises spells out crap. That's funny. I like that. Oh my goodness gracious. But yeah, this is a great first person narrative. Clever lines. I like the nod to Professors Fill My Eyes and Robbie's Pete, for their input. Um, and the part where it says, okay, are you paying attention because this formula gets tricky? Oh my goodness. If this was an actual lesson, like if it was an actual school, like thank goodness it's poetry, because poetry I can pay attention to. If this was actual school, my mind would have been wandering off. But I do really enjoy the crap at the end. So, just a fun and clever write, and very well done. All right, Rex, what do we have next?
The Twilight Cliffs by Ed Hunter. The deep canyon with its smooth, winding walls held my breath. She is tempted half a step to scream out over the falls, so sweet and docile to the point of death. This weeping upon the heart and shunning love away is a perilous monarch until eternity. The blossom of the soul is yet a small sprout of sustenance to being. When it is lost, life is unseen. The funeral is frost on a sheathing knife, and mortality is fought with fright, yet this lighthouse that glows upon her breast is a beautiful dark mind in distress. The ocean that never waves, the sun that never shines, is upon life's lasting goodbyes. End poem.
Great read there, Rex. And what a beautiful, haunting, dark write, by Ed Hunter. I love the imagery in this. I like how it's, to me, twofold. There is the personification of the canyon, the personification of the butterfly, the monarch, but it also speaks to me on the idea of someone who's having a mental breakdown. Somebody, it feels like somebody standing on the edge of a canyon, contemplating whether or not they should take that final step into the darkness and end their own suffering. Really just strong visceral imagery and metaphors, and great lines throughout. But I did especially like this: weeping upon the heart and shunning love away is a perilous monarch until eternity. Feeling so fragile when it comes to life. So excellent dark right and very well done. And your thoughts, Rex?
Well, that idea of desperate might be the thought of death itself, because it does allude to the funeral is frost on a sheathing knife, and mortality is fought with fright. Yet this lighthouse that glows upon her breast is a beautiful dark mind in distress. Someone who's walking close to that edge because of the death that is front for front and center within her heart and mind. Um, so the idea is being that the ocean that never waves, the sun that never shines is upon life's lasting goodbyes. It's not quiet notes, it's saying goodbye, but also uh, that note of what death brings upon one when things revolve in such a fashion as to be so deeply connected.
I like that. Great observations there, Rex. Very cool. All right. And what do we got next?
Uh, uh, a Smell Lingers Here by Julie Buck.
All right. All right. And it goes like this. The Scottish castle will not die, sitting atop a cliff, a small loch below, and whispers in the night that sigh, spirits that can't let go. What happened in this castle, surrounded by drab green trees and mosses from the marsh? A smell lingers here, and dungeon memories are brutally harsh. Medieval torture for the slightest infraction. Injustice reigned. Untold prisoners jumped from the castle's ledge into the lake, preferring to die by drowning rather than stewed on a wooden stake. The smell is a pain of blood, of a death so slow you'd piss your pants. One prisoner chained to a dungeon wall, bricks added one by one. He'd watch the stacking until a man was barricaded behind a bunch of bricks. What would have been his thoughts? No food, no water, minimal air, in darkness and alone. The Scottish castle will not die, atop a cliff infused with groans. End poem. What an amazing dark rite by Julie Buck. And your thoughts, Rex?
I like the angle here. The Scottish castle angle kind of hits on that idea of something uh, dark, mysterious out in the out upon the glade with the mist rolling around the castle. So it offers up that note of things where spirits might linger, and a smell that might linger there too. That rolls into a number of things. Dungeon memories, brutally harsh. Yes, medieval torture. That kind of hits on the thought of uh, Spanish Inquisition. Uh, that note of untold prisoners jumped in the castle legends. Like that had me thinking of Castle Dracula, where he throws some of his boyar uh, people off the back end of his where his castle was into the shallows below. And he also did that note that skewed on a wooden stake. So I I like the fact that she dropped in a number of things to make this harsher, so you can offer up that idea of the more that was done wrong within a place holds that darker note to that which lingers within it, and it always has that perceived thought of a special smell that lingers Whether it's true or not is irrelevant because you do got the moors and you got the bogs, so that adds a little bit of temperate thought to where you are, as well as the heath itself. But the idea that it rings a strong note in mind by offering up that thought of, "Ooh, there's something rot here," and there lingers some ghostly things that offer up. I mean, even she even dropped in that note of walling up a prisoner behind bricks, which brings a note to what was it, Poe for the breaking up one of his Montiato?
I like that. I like that. Great comment there, Rex. Yeah, I mean, this really grabs your attention from the title. A smell lingers here. It's beautifully haunting, very visceral. I like how it speaks on the idea of the history of a place that continues to haunt it, and how the idea of not only that the spirits that linger, but how the castle stands the test of time and becomes a physical representation to a history that is filled with death and with horror. And I thought there were great lines throughout, but I especially like where it says the smell is a pain of blood, of a death so slow you piss your pants. One prisoner chained to a dungeon wall, bricks added one by one. He'd watch the stacking until a man was barricaded behind a bunch of bricks. What would have been his thoughts? Wonderful lines and very well done by Julie Buck. All right, and back to you, Rex.
Wizard of Potions by Daniel Duhigg. Deep in the dark cave where dreams go to die, potions of vile liquids lay like stagnant milk, mixed together to form new spells of influence from the mind of a mad scientist whose mind had passed into the void beyond reason. He was paid a king's ransom to find the right formula to make iron into gold ingots without impurities. The king did not know that such a thing was impossible, so the wizard painted a bar of silver to look like iron, and through a small electrical charge made it look like he turned it to gold. The king was so happy that he could now fill his coffers into gold bullion, until he found out about the deception and had the wizard executed, and his head was lobbed off into a basket and held up for all to see. And Paul,
Great read there, Rex. This is a wonderful dark storytelling right by Daniel Duhame. I like how it delves into alchemy, and the idea of the betrayal of the king's court in the king's court. And I you know, I like how he writes about the corruption that can and betrayal that can happen in the royal court. Um, and one line leads nicely into the next. The nice thing about this poem is it stands well on its own, but it can also be expanded into a further story. And another thing, especially with the end stanza, with the line, "The king was so happy that he could now fill his coffers into gold bullion." I feel like it also speaks on greed and the desire to get exactly what you want. So excellent, Dark Right, and very well done. And your thoughts, Rex?
well, it walks on a couple of things: that which is possible, and the want to see what lies within that alchemical bounds, and to hit on that note of transfiguration from one element into another, because they believe that that is a possible idea that can be, and if one were to find it, would offer them a note of a historical viewpoint, but also it walks on that idea of uh, desperation, because you only get You are only given so much leeway before the king crowns down and says, hey, you ain't getting no more time. I want what I want. You better produce. And at that point, you fake it. You don't make it. And you get your head lopped off to boot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great comment there, Rex. All right. And what do we got next?
Doo-doo. We've got A Placid Pool by Weaver of Dreams. SoundCloud.
Yes. We just get this posted in a couple spots. And there we go. I'll go grab that.
Moonlight enticed me from the boundary of the castle walls. At the edge of a placid pool, I sank onto the grass with a sigh. Silence deepened this sense of peace. Summer had arrived, wrought vital changes, thereby allowing all to live or to die. My gaze drifted across the water, followed the silvery path as a gentle breeze whispered of morning sunshine, floral scents. Then I heard a twig snap, made louder by the nighttime hush, as two glowing eyes appeared to escalate that evening's events. Behind me, I heard shots from a blunderbuss that whizzed by to find their mark. A huge stag fell to its knees, its eyes glazed. I screamed, turned, and ran to the safety of the castle and staff, while the head gamekeeper dragged the carcass away, unfazed.
Wonderful read and write, Weaver. Thank you for the SoundCloud. It is very much appreciated. And your thoughts, Rex?
It paints a note of sneaking out to do something you know you shouldn't, getting caught with it, and finding out that life isn't as simple as you think, and you can do what you want and please in the moment because of that which lies in part of the bounds, which is the arena in which you live in that particular time. So she learned that the hard way and finally had to see where the meat on her table actually comes from because. She decided to take a stroll down to the lake and do a bit of dipping when she knew she shouldn't have. Unmute, Pam.
I actually was unmuted the whole time. I just couldn't hear you, so I was waiting for you to say something. I was waiting until I could hear you. So, sorry. But yeah, I liked the imagery in this. The title and the imagery makes me think of the movie Lake Placid. Um, just really strong lines throughout, very haunting. I really like silence deepened this sense of peace. Summer had arrived, wrought vital changes, thereby allowing all to live or to die. I like how that speaks on that balance between life and death. I also really like where it says, behind me, I heard shots from a blunderbuss that whizzed by to find their mark. A huge stag fell to its knees, its eyes glazed. And then the reaction to that. I feel like this is the idea of someone who has witnessed the ugliness of mankind in the way they destroy nature without a second thought. So amazing dark right and very well done. And let's go ahead and uh, fit in one last poem for the night.
Last of the Bloodline by Snooker, 1955. An Irish castle sits in silent vigil, looking over a bog filled with tannin bodies, with mouths agape, seemingly caught in silent screams, resting in contorted ways. My fear of the dead tortured souls weighs heavily on my bloodline as centuries-old words echo the curse like a bell ringing endlessly. Yes, a curse placed upon my ancestors from the guiltless ones now plague me from those who now bed in this peat bog. I walk quickly on this path at the edge of the moorlands in the yellow sunlit night, trying to reach the sanctity of the castle at the edge of the moor. The banshees utter my name, muted, but seems distant, but is near. Thoughts run wild as my eyes scan the gray and black shadows for movement, for the one who has chosen to end me, the last of the bloodline. And poem.
Great read there, Rex. And what an amazing dark right by Snook. Really, I like the imagery of this. The mention of the peat bog makes me think of like bodies found in peat bogs that are like perfectly preserved. I like how this reads like historical fiction, like somebody looking at their past, but also the mythology of it, of a curse that is passed from one generation to the next. It's a great first person narrative, and I think there's great lines throughout. But I especially like my fear of the dead, tortured souls weights heavy on my bloodline as centuries old words echo the curse like a bell ringing endlessly. Great take on the chosen prompt and very well done. And your thoughts, Rex?
Well, this one believes in the history. One believes in that which surrounds because he's seen things, he's heard things, he's been in the midst of things he can't explain. So it has to be the reality of that curse, and like it or not, it is the reality of his ancestral home and that which is connected to it. The peat bogs, the bog bodies, yes, they are a lingering reminder, especially when they are dragged to resurface and you find out just how uh, how they did die. Because some of those bog bodies are actually they offered up themselves. They're a note to sacrifice. There's nothing except a quiet note to how they died, and then they are uh, uh, put together in such a fashion as to be honored and then sifted down into the bog to preserve them in that moment of death. So this walks another road. I like that note
Absolutely.
of the banshees on the back end, howling for it. Hits that note of the hound of the Baskervilles, the haunting notes of that which was.
Great observations there, Rex. Great comment. And awesome show tonight. Thank you, as always, Rex, for being an amazing co host. Thank you to Robbie for calling in. Thank you, Monty, Tim, Mike, Rowe, and everybody else who hung on the board. Thank you to everybody who wrote for the show, is listening now, or will be listening later. We truly appreciate you all. We will have about 8 carryovers to go for the next Echoes in the Dark show. And make sure to keep an eye out on the contests and topic boards put up by late night poets, hosts, and hostesses, because you're sure to find something to inspire. Tonight, Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, you can join Fill My Eyes and Intimitus Rex for open poetry. Saturday, we will be doing the memorial show for Shamala, who sadly passed away. So anybody who could join us for that, that wants to join us for that is more than welcome. Also, then on Sunday is Rhythm and Rhyme with Intimitus Rex. And Rex, what do you have happening for that?
Uh, got Eric Panther's music to inspire you, so dig in, pick a piece, and have some fun.
That sounds like great inspiration. I'm looking forward to that. And have a wonderful night, everyone, and have a wonderful night, Rex.
Good night, gang. Good night, Pam.